Okay, we start this off with Rod doing the third step prayer.
Third step prayer on page 63, everybody. I hope everybody's got your big book close, a highlighter, a pen, and a piece of paper. And remember, we'll take questions at the end of the meeting.
Yep.
Third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Excellent, excellent. All right, we are on page 129, but we're going to back up just barely. We're going to go down to the very bottom of page 128. This is a good paragraph to get started on, and we'll get started there. All right.
Sounds great. Everybody, bottom of page 128. Oh, just let Mary B in here. Can't start the meeting without Mary B. Page 128. He is not so unbalanced as you might think. Many of us have experienced dad's elation. We have indulged in spiritual intoxication. Like a gaunt prospector, belt drawn in over the last ounce of food, our pick struck gold. Joy at our release from a lifetime of frustration knew no bounds. Father feels he has struck something better than gold. For a time, he would try to hug the new treasure to himself. He may not see at once that he has barely scratched a limitless load, which will pay dividends only if he minds it for the rest of his life and insists on giving away the entire production.
Yes, so we're in the place where the alcoholic has found a higher power, has tapped into that, has seen the benefit of it, and is enjoying this newfound strength that they have been able to tap into. And from doing that, they actually have a tendency to kind of grasp onto it and hold onto it a little bit more tightly than what you might need to. And the idea here is that once you do have this higher power, this inner strength, and this ability to be able to turn these decisions and your life over to this higher power, the idea here is that you want to share it and give it away to others. And you find that this focus on other people aside from yourself is really what we're driving towards. And when you do that, you're going to find that your sobriety and your recovery is going to go much better. It's going to be stronger, and the success from it is going to be much more to what your intended goal is, which is full recovery for the rest of your life. Rob?
Yeah, Bill, when he was speaking at the end of class last week, was talking about a pick and a shovel is the only instruments that don't come with instructions. Drills, other things, come with instructions. The pick and shovel don't come with instructions. It's assumed you know exactly what to do with them. And it also talks about an unlimited load. And that is like our faith. We're growing in faith all the time. We never stop growing. Some people talk about step 11 as a maintenance step. I always was taught that it was a growth step. I'm always growing in my understanding and my knowledge. And that's just what they're saying right here. He has barely scratched a limitless load. What a beautiful thought. So keep that in mind. We have to give it away in order to keep it. If the family cooperates, Dad will soon see that he is suffering from a distortion of values. He will perceive that his spiritual growth is lopsided. That for an average man like himself, a spiritual life which does not include his family obligations may not be so perfect after all. If the family will appreciate that Dad's current behavior is but a phase of his development, all will be well. In the midst of an understanding and sympathetic family, these vagaries of Dad's spiritual infancy will disappear quickly.
Yeah, and we're talking about a maturity. So, it's kind of like a learning, there's a learning curve that kind of comes with this newfound strength, this newfound tapping into of a higher power, and really that getting used to turning your life over to that higher power. There's a learning curve, and so you have to mature through that phase, if you want to call it that, and understand that it is just a beginning to be able to actually have that. And then to be able to give it away is, it takes some time, it takes some practice. And the idea here is that, the family should be patient. They should try and participate and support, but realizing that, the more that the alcoholic matures with their newfound strength, the better off things are going to be for everybody. Rob?
Yeah. What happens is that, we always talk about the portioning of a pie, splitting things into equal portions. At the beginning, we go headlong into stuff. I find that I have an addictive personality, that when I do things, I always overdo them, whether it was my drinking or whether it's going to meetings and trying to get involved in the fellowship of AA. Jump in with both feet, but we have to divide the pie. We didn't get sober in order to, forget about our families. They now see us as sober people who are trying to get back into the family. So, we can't forget them. They've waited a long time for us to get sober. So let's make sure we keep them in our thoughts and our prayers, and we become involved. The opposite may happen should the family condemn and criticize. Dad may feel that for years his drinking had placed him on the wrong side of every argument, but that now he has become a superior person with God on his side. If the family persists in criticism, this fallacy may take a still greater hold on Father. Instead of treating the family as he should, he may retreat further into himself and feel he has spiritual justification for doing so.
Well, it's just a human condition. It's just the idea that we've talked about this before, that if you've got a supportive family, and the people that are closest to you are on your side and really promoting your recovery and supporting this higher newfound strength and the higher power that you found, recovery is going to go much better. It's going to go smoother. It's going to be easier. And you're going to find that your success rate is going to be much higher. The opposite being is that if you're being condemned or criticized or it's problematic, then sure, you're going to find this strength. You're going to hold on to it. And you're going to think to yourself, well, I guess I've had to do this on my own. And sure, you're going to try and retreat and withdraw within yourself. That's going to stalemate your progress. It's going to be a speed bump along the way, and there'll be more and more of those. And you're going to find that the family is going to grow more dissatisfied because you're going to withdraw more and more. The alcoholic is going to be dissatisfied because they really, benefit from the support, if they've had it, from their family. So this is just kind of one of those things that, it's really important. It's really critical to the overall success of a recovering alcoholic to have the kind of support that is necessary from the family in order to be successful. Otherwise, it's going to be a longer and more fraught journey for the recovering alcoholic. And the problems could get so big that the recovery is uprooted, and they go and they drink again. They just decide that the effort, the lack of support just isn't worth it, and to endure that would be too much, and they find themselves drinking again. So just an important point here, because what we're trying to do is say, look, one is you've got this recovering alcoholic, but two, you have this family that is in need of their own recovery, and certainly that's what we're talking about. And so the alcoholic needs to recognize that, but at the same time, the family needs to recognize the process and the phases that a recovering alcoholic is going to go through. And I can attest to the fact that my first year, there were a lot of changes that I went through, both mentally and physically, in my recovery. And actually, as each of those things happened, a newfound kind of awareness and knowledge was gained, and I was able to turn around and apply that to my recovery with my family and with friends. You know, now into my second year and really into my third, I found that there is a level of maturity and an awareness of where I'm at and what I'm doing that I didn't have, for example, in that first year. So it is there. It is a real thing. It is going to be something that is going to be a progression, but the family has to be patient. They have to be supportive. And at the same time, the alcoholic has to recognize this balance that we're looking for in order to be able to also return that support and return the awareness and the interest and just overall being a part of the family. Rob?
Right at the bottom of page 129, everybody. Though the family does not fully agree with Dad's spiritual activity, they should let him have his head, even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family. It is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. During those first few days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. Though some of his manifestations are alarming and disagreeable, we think Dad will be on a much firmer foundation than the man who is placing business or professional success ahead of spiritual development. He will be less likely to drink again, and anything is preferable to that.
So bottom line is we really don't want this alcoholic to turn to alcohol and drink again. So nothing ensures immunity than work with another alcoholic. So if you've got your the recovering alcoholic in the family that's actually now starting to work with other alcoholics, let them have that, because what they're doing is they're also gaining sobriety through that support and that working with other alcoholics. In addition to that, they're also learning what it is to be a recovered alcoholic, and having the process that they go through, that's all part of it. And again, it's kind of that balancing act. You do a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that. And then you kind of realize that you need to do a little bit more of the thing you were doing less of. And you kind of start to bracket or you know, work your way towards a well-balanced recovery. And so and we're not talking about this going on for a long time, not for a year or two, where the family is neglected completely and all the recovering alcoholic does is work with other alcoholics. We're not talking about a long time. We're talking about the first few days to few weeks kind of process. Again, it's going to take a strong family that has a good awareness of what the recovery entails, what the phases of this recovery include, and being able to have that open communication and dialogue so that they feel comfortable enough and free enough to be able to voice their opinions without retribution. And so there's a lot of things going on at this point. And it really is a juggling act, and there is some balancing that has to go on, but it's important that that gets reinforced over and over again, because it's so easy to get selfish and hurt and resentful, and you don't want that to happen. So really starting off on the right foot means that there's got to be good communication going both ways between the alcoholic and the family. Rob?
Yeah, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. Step 12. Phil snuck that in, didn't he? During those first few days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. First few days of convalescence, his recovery, his healing. People I've heard in the fellowship, you need a year before you can help somebody else. This book is saying first few days. Remember, somebody that's brand new in the fellowship can help somebody that's just walking through the door the first day. Okay, they might not be able to help them with taking them through the steps, but he can help them just, wow, you got a week? How did you get a week? I can't get a couple of hours. We can help. Okay, and that's what this whole program is about, is not only getting a spiritual connection, which I always put my fingers together to show God, me, my connection, but to ensure immunity from drinking, we help other people. You got it, Pete. And that's what it's all about, is helping another person. Why do we help other people? Because it helps us. It reinforces what we need to do in order to stay sober. So please always help out the newcomer. Go up to them, make them feel comfortable. If you're in a meeting, show them where the washroom is. That they are allowed to go up and get a cup of coffee. And in the US, I hear they have donuts. Here in Canada, we don't have donuts. But Bill always tells me they got donuts in the US meetings. I don't know what it's like over in the Netherlands, whether you guys get donuts or pastries, but yeah, I'm lucky to get a stale cookie. But you know what? I'm grateful for everything I got from all these people that put their time and effort into it. And that's what it's all about. Those of us who have spent much time in the world of spiritual make-believe have eventually seen the childishness of it. This
I think we lost Rob there for just a second. I'll go ahead and keep going here just so that we can keep moving as far as that goes and try to get Rob back here. Those of us who have spent much time in the world of spiritual make-believe have eventually seen the childishness of it. The dream world has been replaced by a great sense of purpose, accompanied by a growing consciousness of the power of God in our lives. We have come to believe He would like us to keep our heads in the clouds with Him, but that our feet ought to be firmly planted on earth. That is where our fellow travelers are, and that is where our work must be done. These are the realities for us. We have found nothing incompatible between a powerful spiritual experience and a life of sane and happy usefulness. So the idea here is that you really have to try to balance out this spiritualness of your recovery. And yes, having your head in the clouds, but your feet firmly planted on ground is a good place to start, and it's one that you need to balance to be able to get there. The realities are that we have found nothing incompatible between a powerful spiritual experience and a life of sane and happy usefulness. Okay, the bottom line is that you want to make sure that spiritual side of your life is incredibly strong, but you want to take that and make that and be useful to other people. And not just other alcoholics. Now we're focusing on the recovering alcoholic to being a part of alcoholics, other alcoholics' lives, but it's also important that this be part of the program, which we all have defined as an all-encompassing kind of thing. It's not just the steps. It's not just a spiritual experience, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a combination of all of those things. And bottom line is that you want to be useful to other people. And what you find is that if you take this spiritual life and you apply it across all of your life, you're going to find that there's going to be a benefit that you wouldn't have realized if all you did was work with other alcoholics and the like. All right, we've got Rob back.
I'm back. Lack of power. That was my dilemma. I lost power, so oh well. Sorry about that, everybody. One more suggestion: whether the family has spiritual convictions or not, they may well do to examine the principles by which the alcoholic member is trying to live. They can hardly fail to approve these simple principles, though the head of the house still fails somewhat in practicing them. Nothing will help the man who is off on a spiritual tangent so much as the wife who adopts a sane spiritual program, making a better practical use of it.
Yeah, and really what we're just trying to say, and this is pretty simple, is that, this is in support of the family taking on a spiritual life themselves. In this case, somebody that is not an alcoholic taking on this spiritual life, but in a sane manner, and one that can temper the spiritual life of the alcoholic. So and again, there's some assumptions here. One is that you've got an alcoholic that's recovering. Two, they've been able to find a spiritual life. Three, they're sharing it with other alcoholics and are in need of some guidance and some maturity to share that across their entire life. And then four, you've got somebody that is in support of that. The other household leader, if you will, taking on the spiritual life and being able to grab the hand of the recovering alcoholic and kind of helping to guide them so that they can actually share some of that spiritualness with the rest of the family. Rob?
There will be other profound changes in the household. Liquor incapacitated father for so many years that mother became head of the house. She met these responsibilities gallantly. By force of circumstances, she was often obliged to treat father as a sick or wayward child. Even when he wanted to assert himself, he could not, for his drinking placed him constantly in the wrong. Mother made all the plans and gave the direction. When sober, father usually obeyed. Thus mother, through no fault of her own, became accustomed to wearing the family trousers. Father, coming suddenly to life again, often begins to assert himself. This means trouble unless the family watches for these tendencies in each other and comes to a friendly agreement about them.
Yeah, and we're basically talking about 8 changes that are going to happen within the alcoholic's life. And because of that, well, not because of that, but we're going to go through those and review them. This is the first one that we're going to be talking about. It's when sober, father usually obeyed. Thus, mother, through no fault of her own, became accustomed to wearing the family trousers. Father, coming suddenly to life again, often begins to assert himself. So there's change number 1. That has to be kind of tempered. We have to be careful with that. Obviously, if the other person in the family has taken on the lead role because the alcoholic was incapacitated when they were drunk, and now all of a sudden finds themselves sober, wants to change. We kind of alluded to this back to the children, where they used to have free reign of everything because nobody was there to discipline them because the alcoholic was drunk and passed out, et cetera, et cetera. Now that they're sober is starting to put limitations on the children, and the children are rebelling against that somewhat. The same thing can happen between 2 household leads, and that is that when one has had to take on the role of lead and the other one hasn't been there to support that or be a part of that, or take on their own responsibilities, when they come back and try to take those responsibilities, sometimes that can cause some problems. But nonetheless, this is a change that's going to occur, or it can occur. And it means trouble unless the family watches for these tendencies in each other and comes to a friendly agreement. You do that through good, open, honest, and safe communication. So there's, again, that word communication again is going to be a big deal here. And it's one that's important for the family. Rob?
Beautifully put, Leo. Drinking isolates most homes from the outside world. Father may have laid aside for years all normal activities, clubs, civic duties, sports. When he renews interest in such things, a feeling of jealousy may arise. The family may feel they hold a mortgage on dad, so big that no equity should be left for outsiders. Instead of developing new channels of activities for themselves, mother and children demand that he stay home and make up the deficiency.
Yeah, and this is change number 2. The recovering alcoholic is now going back into some of the civic duties that they may have had before. Maybe it's a volunteer work that they were doing. Maybe it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. It could be any number of, it could be coaching, hockey, et cetera. And they want to get back into doing those type of things. And that's going to take time away from the family. And if the family right now is jealous of all of this, it's going to cause problems. And so the idea here is again, it just needs to be well communicated. It also has to be balanced out so that there is concerted effort and time set aside specifically for the family so that the support can be felt by everyone. And through that, there is a good thing that can happen. But this is change number two is likely to be that the recovering alcoholic now gets back involved in some of the things that they might have been involved or were probably involved in prior to them losing everything through alcohol. Rob?
At the very beginning, the couple ought to be frankly face the fact that each will have to yield here and there if the family is going to play an effective part in the new life. Father will necessarily spend much time with other alcoholics, but this activity should be balanced. New acquaintances who know nothing of alcoholism might be made and thoughtful consideration given their needs. The problems of the community might engage attention. Though the family has no religious connections, they may wish to make contact with or take membership in a religious body.
Yeah, so there's a couple here in this particular paragraph. First and foremost is that the alcoholic may take interest in those that are not alcoholic, and provide support for that, maybe through their volunteer work or otherwise. If it's a neighbor, for example, that just needs help in the yard and they find themselves out there going across and helping this other person with their yard work or something like that, just to be a part of that. That is going to be time that's going to be spent elsewhere and not necessarily with the family. The idea here is let's say it's a Saturday and the family was going to go do something. And then the recovering alcoholic decides that instead of going and doing that, then they're going to go and help the neighbor. That can cause problems. So again, it's not the other person's fault that's asking for the help in the yard, but it is something that needs to be tempered, and the recovering alcoholic has to realize that sometimes no is the right answer to providing some help to others outside of the house that are non-alcoholics. And then we make reference to contact or with and or take membership in a religious body. Going to church, finding an activity there is another thing that might be for the family to do. And with the family doing that, the recovering alcoholic may also follow suit and be a part of that as well. These connections are important. It's not for everybody. We're not saying that it's a have to be, but it is something of a suggestion as far as the changes that are going on in a household that has a recovering alcoholic in it. Rob?
Yep. Alcoholics who have derided religious people will be helped by such contact. Being possessed of a spiritual experience, the alcoholic will find he has much in common with these people, though he may differ with them on many matters. If he does not argue about religion, he will make new friends and is sure to find new avenues of usefulness and pleasure. Yet his family can be a bright spot in such congregations. He may bring new hope and new courage to many a priest, minister, or rabbi who gives his all to minister to our troubled world. We intend the foregoing as a helpful suggestion only. So far as we are concerned, there is nothing I'm going to have a hard one. Leo, help me out here.
Obligatory
About it. As non-denominational people, we cannot make up others' minds for them. Each individual should consult his own conscience.
Yeah, and this is what we were just alluding to. This isn't going to be for everybody, but imagine, if you will, a recovering alcoholic finding their higher power, being able to have that spiritual experience. There is overlap and there is transference that can occur with regard to finding solace and community within a religious body at church, and being able to share the story of what you've been through can in fact be a lesson that can be created and learned by others, and out of that, friends can be made. Clergy can benefit from it. They can find that this is something of a jump start for their own lessons within a religious body. And but again, these are just suggestions. They're not a have to. They're not obligatory. You shouldn't feel obligated in order to do that. But that is a part of this finding. Having a change number 4, we're still working on working with people in church. Rob?
There's nothing obligatory about it. I had to say that word to get it out. I couldn't get it out earlier. I apologize to everybody about that. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We've been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nation, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others find we are soon overcome by them.
Yeah, so the idea here is change number 5, and that is that there is some joy and enjoyment with life that should come with recovery. To a person, I would say that I know of those that have recovered, have found this newfound kind of enjoyment and fun with life. It certainly is one of the strongest things that I found was I was relieved of the struggle that I was going through with regard to knowing that I had to quit drinking, but not being able to quit, and fighting that whole idea and struggling with trying to stop. Once I was able to find that higher power, give myself over, and as I've said before, leap, and the net appeared for me. When I found that out, there was relief. It was just this calming effect that came over me, and this newfound kind of happiness that came with that. It was elated. I was elated with this newfound feeling that I had, and this accomplishment that I was experiencing. And that's kind of the idea here, is that you should take that, grow with that, and share that. And what we're trying to say is that, one, if everybody was glum, if everybody was down and out about their lack of drinking, and they were sad and upset about it, well, nobody would want to play a part in that. Nobody would want to be a part of that. So what we have to do is truly and realistically become happier people and share that happiness with others. And when they see that there is not only success with recovery, but also with this, the idea that you've got a happier life, one that's got a lot of success with it, etc. Whatever that means of success we're talking about, they're going to want that as well. And when you hear people say, "I want what Rob has," the idea is that they're probably talking a lot about the happiness that they're experiencing in Rob's presence. And so that's what we're trying to get across to people. Rob?
Yeah, I love this paragraph, because we aren't a glum lot. The whole thing is that if newcomers come into the fellowship and they see a bunch of miserable people, they're not going to come back. They've had enough misery in their life. Now they're looking for a way out, a new way to enjoy life. And we learned that, we aren't God. We don't have the world troubles on our shoulder. We shake them off. We realize that, it's above my pay grade. God will look after that, not me. I don't have to look after that today. We carry the message, but not the alcoholic, And the thing is that if we have no newcomers, the program will die. So we have to encourage newcomers. And when they see the joy that we're having in our lives, they want to become a part of that. As I say, when I first came into the fellowship, I saw some miserable people. Not a lot, but I did see a few. And I thought, if that is sobriety, I don't want it. I didn't quit drinking and try to change my life around to be miserable. I want to be happy, joyous, and free. That's what God wants for me. That's what my wife wants for me. That's what I want for my family. That's what I want for all the people that come to these meetings. I want them to feel joy, to be happy. We've tried other measures of trying to be happy, and it didn't work. It turned around, like as Bill said in his story, like a boomerang, and cut us to shreds. We came here to be happy. So, as they always say, we are not a glum lot. but we are not a lot. So enjoy yourself. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. Why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and have been given the power to help others.
Yep. We'll just keep going here, Rob.
Okay. Everybody knows that those in bad health and those who seldom play do not laugh much. So let each family play together or separately as much as their circumstances warrant. We're sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that for many of us. But it is clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. Avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery. But if trouble comes, cheerfully capitalize it as an opportunity to demonstrate his omnipotence.
Yep. And so this is just
Omnipotence. Omnipotence. I'm
omnipotence.
sorry.
This is just a continuation of what we're talking about. The idea is to turn something that we might have thought was tragic and or bad into something kind of fun and kind of laugh at yourselves. You got to be able to generate this ability to laugh at yourself and look it back on some of the things that you did with some lightheartedness. And find that that is going to help you to kind of get over, to get past, and move forward on the things that happened in the past. We did make our own misery, and I think it's an important note here that God didn't do it. Your higher power did not create your misery. You did that yourself, and it's something to be aware of. But it is something to put aside, to learn from, and to laugh at as best you can going forward. And not everything is going to be a laughing matter. We're not talking that in that regard, but we are saying that when you are doing your experience, strength, and hope discussions, when you find that there are certain things in there that you have in common with other alcoholics, and there is the ability to kind of laugh at some of the things that you did, and realize that some of the decisions you made were kind of silly, and you can kind of laugh at them, that all the better for that. And you want to capitalize on the cheerfulness of life, and in this newfound life that you have that is free of alcohol, and obviously now you've got the ability to accomplish all kinds of things that you weren't able to before, which is also a good feeling. And you take those good feelings and you just make them better. Rob?
Yeah, we spend an awful lot of time and energy on creating our own misery. So when you find yourself in this situation, ask God to take it away. God, take away this misery that I'm feeling right now so that I can enjoy life, so I can enjoy the day. And we find that, if we do it often enough, that it will. And, remember, we might not have everything we want, but we have everything we need. We are very, very blessed when it comes to that. I might not be rich, but you know what? I got enough money in my pocket that I can go and get a coffee if I want one. How many people would love to be in that situation? How many people that are going through hell right now, illness, sickness, earthquakes that are going on in the world. We have it so good. Okay. It's not perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. But when we really think about it, we are so blessed. We're so fortunate to have the life that we get to lead, and others would give their eye teeth or would kill for it, so please remember that when we are down in the dumps and feeling sorry for ourselves, God, please take this away so that I can enjoy today. Help me to help somebody else. Okay. And get up. That's what step 12 is all about. Remember when Bill was depressed and feeling sorry for himself? What did he do? He got up and he went to help somebody else. That's what step 12 is all about. And that's what the programming is. We live in step 11 and step 12 where we're helping other people get out of ourselves. That's what joy is all about. It's helping others. Now about health. A body badly burned by alcohol does not often recover overnight, nor do twisted thinking and depression vanish in a twinkling. We're convinced that a spiritual mode of living is the most powerful health restorative. We who have recovered from serious drinking are miracles of mental health, but we have seen remarkable transformations in our bodies. Hardly one of our crowd now shows any mark of dissipation.
Yep. And so this is number 6 change, and that is your own health. You should see immediate signs of recovery with regard to your health, but over the long term, and I've said this before, that it was about 9 months into my recovery when I realized that the tremor that I was treating with medication was starting to go away, and I no longer needed that medication. And it was essentially my own withdrawal from alcohol, and part of that was manifesting itself through a tremor that I was experiencing. And it took a good 9 months for that to dissipate, and I was amazed at that. Not only was I amazed, but I was encouraged by the fact that now that I didn't have to take that medication and my tremor had subsided, that was a big motivator for me in order to not drink again, because I didn't want to have that return. But number 2, it also made me happier in regards to that. And I knew I had physical proof for myself that I was recovering from alcohol, and that was something that I could hold on to and really capitalize on. So this is number 6: is your recovery of your physical and mental self with regard to not drinking. Rob?
Okay, but this does not mean that we disregard human health measures. God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychologists, and practitioners of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problem to such persons. Most of them give freely of themselves, that their fellows may enjoy sound minds and bodies. Try to remember that though God has wrought miracles among us, we should never belittle a good doctor or psychiatrist. Their services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer and in following his case afterwards.
Sure. And this is just a disclaimer, and I think it's an important one. One is that somebody going through withdrawal of alcohol needs to be under the care of a professional of some kind or another. And once they've been through that initial stages of recovery and withdrawal has subsided, there is no reason whatsoever, and nowhere in this book does it encourage you not to see a doctor, psychologist, etc. And if they prescribe certain remedies, whether that be physical therapy or medications, you should follow that to the letter. So if you hear people saying that your recovery should not include medications and the work with a doctor, you should not heed that advice, and you should they've got the wrong idea. I'll go ahead and just say that straight out. They've got the wrong idea. Rob?
Yeah, I have heard too many cases of where sponsors will tell their sponsee that God will take care of you. You don't need that medication anymore. We are not doctors. We are not psychiatrists. Okay? We are just inmates running the asylum. Remember, A is run by the inmates. Okay? So please remember that. If people come, alcohol is but a symptom. Sometimes it's hiding for other problems. Okay? We can deal with alcoholism. Okay? We can deal with that. Okay? But other people come in with other problems that need professional care. And we should always say, look, there's no problem getting outside counsel. It's imperative that, not only our physical, but our mental health is taken care of. So don't ever, please, think that we're above playing doctors, because we're not. One of the many doctors who had the opportunity of reading this book in manuscript form told us that the use of sweets was often helpful. Of course, depending upon a doctor's advice, he thought all alcohol should constantly have chocolate available for its quick energy value at times of fatigue. He added that occasionally in the night a vague craving arose which would be satisfied by candy. Many of us have noticed the tendency to eat sweets and have found this practice beneficial.
Yeah, I'm going to admit my own cravings, and that is ice cream and peanut M&Ms are part of the two things that I can't seem to get enough of. So it has changed. I wasn't into sweets when I was drinking alcohol. I think that the sugar that was included in alcohol at the time was satisfying that craving. But I found after I stopped drinking that all of a sudden I was found myself searching out sweet things, and I certainly still enjoy them today in my recovery. But yes, ice cream and peanut M&Ms seem to be the two things that I really enjoy most. But they are beneficial. I just find that it just satisfies that craving I have for something sweet, and not even an inkling comes to mind that all of a sudden I'm exchanging this for alcohol. I just don't think about the alcohol anymore. But I will attest to the fact that there's some truth to what they're saying here in this paragraph here. Rob?
Yeah, Leo, I was popping Werther's candies like they were mints. You know, I just couldn't get enough. The sugar. I'm assuming that it was the sugar that I used to get from the alcohol. My body's craving the sugar, so I'm popping these candies. It lasts a while, and then I haven't had a Werther's in quite a while, so I think I'm over my addiction to Werther's. A word about sex relations. Alcohol is so sexually stimulating to some men that they have overindulged. Couples are occasionally dismayed to find that when drinking is stopped, the man becomes impotent. Unless the reason is understood, there may be an emotional upset. Some of us had this experience, only to enjoy in a few months a finer intimacy than ever. There should be no hesitancy in consulting a doctor or a psychologist if the condition persists. We do not know of many cases where this difficulty lasted long.
Yeah, and this is change number 7. We're talking about sex relations. We are saying that, a change in atmosphere, a change in what you're taking in physically can have an impact on your ability to perform sexually. I think that we find that alcohol, more likely than not, even though it's kind of a social lubricant, and it kind of is one of those things that kind of reduces your inhibitions and everything, it also can have the opposite effect, and it can also cause you to have dulled senses and not be able to perform sexually as well. Certainly, if you've got too much alcohol in your system, that's probably the case. Now that you're not drinking, now that you're physically more alert, more aware, and things are clearer, there should be a return to a level of strength that comes with not drinking and the ability to perform sexually. So that is certainly something here, and that is change number 7. Rob? You're on mute, Rob.
Thank you, Leo.
Yep.
The alcoholic may find it hard to reestablish friendly relations with his children. The young minds were impressionable while he was drinking. Without saying so, they may cordially hate him for what he has done to them and to their mother. The children are sometimes dominated by a pathetic hardness and cynicism. They cannot seem to forgive and forget. This may hang on for months, long after their mother has accepted Dad's new way of living and thinking.
Yeah. And this is change number 8, and that is a relationship with the children in the family. And certainly it is one of those areas where that we've talked about that there's some resentments there that need to be overcome. And for a young, impressionable mind, this is important. There is the effects of what they've watched of the alcoholic in the family, regardless of whether it's the mother or the father. And they may have their own hardness and cynicism, and that needs to be dealt with and communicated very, very very with sensitivity. And it may take a while for them to come around, and that's part of it. But change number 8 is that relationship with the children within the family. Rob?
And here's where the pause comes in. You know, Dad's been out of it for a while. And now he's coming to take his rightful place, or what he thinks is his rightful place. And he's telling the children, do this, do that, you know, and the children are just going, where are you coming from now? All of a sudden you want to become involved in my life? So cynicism builds up, pause, step back from the situation, think about it. Okay, don't react right away. Time takes time. In time, they will see that he is a new man, and in their own way, they will let him know it. When this happens, they can be invited to join in morning meditation, and then they can take part in the daily discussion without rancor or bias. From that point on, progress will be rapid. Marvelous results often follow such a reunion.
We'll go ahead and keep going.
Okay. Whether the family goes on a spiritual basis or not, the alcoholic member has to if he would recover. The others must be convinced of his new status beyond the shadow of a doubt. Seeing is believing to most families who have lived with a drinker.
Yeah, and that is certainly true. There is going to be some time. There's going to need to be some patience. There's going to have to be some good, effective communication in a safe environment. And there's going to be just this awareness kind of globally of everything that's going on around the family. And there has to be, this kind of temperance of the different activities that are now going to consume the time that is available for both the family and the recovering alcoholic. So what we're trying to say here is just that, and that is time, patience, and good communication are all going to be elements that are going to help a family become stronger and one that actually is going to thrive in this new found environment of recovery. All right, Rob?
Yeah, whether the family goes on a spiritual basis or not, the alcoholic member has to, if he would recover. This is a warning or an instruction. Remember on page 44, it said to be doomed to an alcoholic death or a spiritual basis are not always easy. So remember that. Also, seeing is believing to most families who have lived with a drinker. Show me, don't tell me. You've said so many things in the past. Just show me how you're living today. Leo, it is 12:53. Do we want to bring Bill into it now?
Let's go ahead and just finish. There's 2 more paragraphs. We'll just read all the way to the bottom, and then
I will
finish us up on this chapter.
Okay, here is a case in point. One of our friends is a heavy smoker and coffee drinker. There was no doubt he overindulged. Seeing this and meaning to be helpful, his wife commenced to admonish him about it. He admitted he was overdoing these things, but frankly said that he was not ready to stop. His wife is one of those persons who really feels there is something rather sinful about these commodities. So she nagged and intolerant, finally threw him into a fit of anger. He got drunk. Of course, her friend was wrong, dead wrong. He had to painfully admit that and mend his spiritual fences. Though he is now a most effective member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he still smokes and drinks coffee, but neither his wife nor anyone else stands in judgment. She sees she was wrong to make a burning issue out of such a matter when his more serious ailments were being rapidly cured. We have 3 little mottos which are apropos. Here they are. First things first, live and let live, and easy does it.
Yes, and Rob, we're talking about Mr. Earl Treat. He was the first AA in Chicago. His story is on page 258 in the big book. But the idea here is that there was some nagging. There was this idea that they were trying to stop something else. The person wasn't ready to quit that. They got to the point that they got resentments built up again. And it's just a quick example of how things can go south and the alcoholic can go back to drinking and disrupt their recovery. In this case, there's good news in that they realized it. They stopped drinking again. They were able to get back into the recovery. People were now made aware of the fact that the nagging and the admonishments were not working. In fact, they were working in the opposite. And for that, they didn't want the person to go back to drink again. Remember, the good news is that the person isn't drinking, and there's always something to celebrate with that. And with regard to our little mottos, first things first, That's get your higher power, live and live, and then easy does it, which is Rob's favorite thing, and that is to pause. All right, let's go ahead and bring Bill in now, and we'll finish things up.
Hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, guys. Good job today. This chapter here, Family Afterward, Bill's trying to enlighten the family or educate the family on how to deal with the alcoholic. Because if they don't deal with the alcoholic correctly, there's a good chance the alcoholic could go back out and drink. Now, on page 129, Rob touched on it. On the bottom of the page, it says, during those first days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. Here in the meetings, you have to wait a year before you can do anything, before you can help anybody. That's not what this book says. If you carefully read this book, you're going to find out a lot of things that you hear in the rooms and meetings just are not true according to this book. This book says the first days that you're getting better, the first days that you're sober, you can help somebody else. Like Rob mentioned, if you got a week, you can tell a guy that's just walking in the door for the first day what you did to stay sober for a week. Show them where the coffee is. Show them where the donuts are. Unless you live in Canada, you don't have donuts, but whatever. You could show them where the stuff is. Show them where other meetings are. Give them a meeting book or a meeting list or whatever. You can help somebody. You can always help somebody. You can even help somebody that's got more time than you. You might have picked up on something that they didn't, whatever. So never be afraid to help anybody. And on page 132, it tells us on the bottom of the page, we have recovered and been given the power to help others. We are uniquely qualified to help other alcoholics get sobriety because we've been through it and we know what they're going through and we understand it. All these other people that try to help, they may have good intentions, but they don't have the experience that we have. We have the experience with alcoholism and we have the experience with getting sober, and we can pass that on to someone else. And other people, they may be able to help a little bit, but we were given power to help other alcoholics get sober. So don't believe it when you hear people that say we're powerless over people, places, and things, because that's not always true. Sometimes you're going to be powerless over some people, some places, and some things, but we're not powerless over trying to help another alcoholic who wants to get sober. Because we can relate our experience and what we went through, and we can show them how we did it. We can't drag them through it, but we can show them what we did, and if they want to follow along, they can get it. So don't ever be afraid to help anybody, because most likely they're going to die from alcoholism anyway. You can't hurt somebody else. If somebody wants to get sober, don't be afraid that you don't have enough experience. If you're sober, that's enough experience to tell somebody else how to get sober. That's basically all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thank you, Rob. I'm sorry. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, let's go ahead and close out with the Serenity Prayer, Rob, and then we'll open it up.
Okay, sounds good. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.